Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Free for All Friday. And we've got some great special guests today in the room with us. First off, Rachel Maurice Sports gets to join us again this Friday. Welcome, Rachel. What's up?
Not much. Happy to be here again. Busy week, but it's always good to take some time Friday morning to talk some Lions football.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. I have the dose with the most, dose of Dion 2.0. What's up? What's good, man?
What's up, man? How's it going? Excited to be back. Thank you for having me again.
No, I really appreciate it. This is Free for All Friday. It'll be fun, man. And our special guest today is Math Bomb. Hey, what's up, man?
Not a lot, man. Glad you guys are having me.
Yeah, all right. So we're going to get right into it. And I want to go to Math Bomb. I want to go to you first. And tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, and what is the RAS system?
Yeah, I've been covering the Lions for the better part of a decade now. I'm covering the draft since about 2013. I created the relative athletic score system, which rates player athleticism on a scale of 0 to 10. Pretty easy to understand for everybody. 0 is bad, 10 is good, 5 is right in the middle. It compares a player to their position group all the way back to 1987. We've got about 21,000 players in the database now. And it just gives you a nice idea contextually of how well a player tested compared to their position group. You know, every time you hear about how a guy's quick but not fast, or he's super explosive, I don't mean anything. That's just buzzwords that they like to throw around at the draft. You know, and the same thing's true even for the individual metrics. You hear about, oh, this guy ran a 4.5. Is that good? You know, it sounds good for most positions. It's just an easy way to look at that and say, yes, this is good for a defensive end, really good for a defensive end to run a 4.5. It's about average for a wide receiver. It's okay. You know, it adds that context, just being able to see it in a number. And then, of course, it wraps everything into a nice package and gives you that overall score, that composite score for a player. And again, this is 35 years of data. You can compare it to pretty much anybody that's come out in your lifetime for most people.
Man, that's amazing. We're going to be asking you a bunch of questions today. We got a question already for anyone in the panel. It says, let's go Lions. Question for questions of the day. Well, that's what we do on the regular show. Today, we are not doing that. In the second, if both are there, who do you take? Wide receiver Terrence Marshall, or do you take Kentucky linebacker Jarman Davis? No relation to Jared Davis, thank God. Okay. I added some stuff there. Anybody want to take that on the panel? Anybody, doesn't matter.
I'll take that one just because I love Jamon Davis. I think he's great. He's probably not going to be there when the Lions pick in the second round. He's that good. He's got a really strong chance to sneak into the first round. Terrace Marshall does also. He's also got a weird name. It's not Terrence. But we've got a lot of weird names in this draft too. It's great. I love it. But I expect Davis to be gone at the very end of the first round. If not then, before we pick in the second. If he's there when the Lions are picking at the second, you sprint as fast as he would to that pedestal to pick him, man, because he's a fast, rangy, explosive linebacker, can use him all over the field. He'd fit in any scheme. And I don't know if you guys have noticed, but the Lions don't have a great linebacking core.
Noticed.
And they could really use him. The Lions could double dip at receiver, though. I mean, even if they take Chase or Smith or Waddle with their first round pick, they could take somebody like Marshall or Kadarius Toney or De'Ami Brown or something like that in the second. And it wouldn't shock me. So I would take both of those guys if they were there and you had the option to. But between the two, Davis every time.
All right, Davis, every time. Anybody else want to talk about that one, or going we move on? And I have to introduce the main man, my man, Kurt Steele. What's up, man?
What's up? Welcome to the show, people. Welcome me to the show because I was a little bit late. I had to restart my computer. I try to jump in on time, but you know, technology. But hey, welcome, Matt Bomb. Welcome, Dion. You know, Rachel Maurice Sports. You know how we get down, and of course, the man, Jim Bordeaux himself. So, hello, everyone, and it is great to be here on a free-for-all Friday. You know what it is. It's Friday, then it's Saturday, Sunday. Hey, the weekend is here, baby. So what we got going on, Jim?
Oh, we introduced Math Bomb and the dose with the most there, over dose of Dion and Rachel and you. We had a couple of questions so far. Math Bomb's explained the RAS system for us, and I have a question. My question for you, Math Bomb: who do you think would be the best pick at number 7 for the Detroit Lions?
I think the Lions need to reset at the whole franchise right now, and that starts at quarterback. And if the Lions have an opportunity, to get Fields or Lance, they should jump at that opportunity. I don't think they're going to get that chance. I don't think it's possible for them to get one of those two. But if either of those guys fall, that should be the pick. Jared Goff ain't it. You're rebuilding a franchise. You can't rebuild around somebody like Goff. You got to take talent. Assuming those guys are gone, the Lions don't have an opportunity. They've got a really good chance to pick up a premier player. Penei Sewell might fall to 7. I personally think he goes 5 to the Bengals. You jump at that. I love Taylor Decker, but if you draft Sewell, he will be the left tackle by the end of his rookie season, and he will stay there for 10 years. Perfect pick if he falls. Chase is a fantastic pick. Wide receivers in the top 10 is always risky, but I would be totally fine with Chase. I would take Devontae Smith regardless of the risk. He's a 170-pound beanpole, the Slim Reaper. I think he's worth that risk. He's that good of a player. And then Jalen Waddle. Jalen Waddle is an explosive playmaker, man. He's all over the field. He's ridiculously fast and explosive. Just there's some injuries you got to worry about. There's risk associated with each of these guys. But you can't really go wrong as far as the player you're going to get at 7. I say that. If they take Mac Jones, they have done something wrong. But generally,
we agree there.
generally, assuming reality holds, they can't really go wrong with the player that they pick. But my preference would be rebooting the franchise entirely if they have the opportunity to do so. I just don't think they do.
I'm going to toss this one out to Dion, and then maybe other people can weigh in too. Do you have any concerns about Devonta Smith's size? How many wide receivers have been productive playing at 170 pounds or under?
Yeah, I can't answer that second question. I don't know about that one, but I do know the first one. You said 0? Okay.
0.
I have seen. I've watched him play a lot recently, though, and I just think, man, Devontae just finds a way to get open. I mean, he's so explosive. It's crazy. I was watching Tyson Campbell against him, and I was just like, man, Campbell looks solid all year, and then you got Devontae Smith, and he just didn't seem to be able to keep up with him. Works back to the football. He kind of just maneuvers his way through, and he obviously is a great deep threat. The more I've watched Devontae, I've kind of just put the size thing aside, and I'm just like, man, this guy can just play. So I'm not too worried about it, especially if it was like a trade back option, which I've seen those, and then you got to land him. I think, I don't think you're going wrong there.
Math Bomb Stash is killing Jeremy. Jeremy Reisman of Pride of Detroit, in case you don't know, we've nicknamed him the Stash on the show. He's been on the show several times. And
he's got a great stash. He does have a great mustache.
They're giving you one up on that, man.
We weren't on yet. I got the hat. I don't know if you can see it. It's sitting back there. I got the hat too. I'm just not wearing it because I'm not feeling great and I'm sweating a lot. So
right. I hope you feel better, man.
Yeah.
The one player that I think that I can kind of compare Devontae Smith with, even though he's a little bit slightly bigger, and I think that Smith can get to that size, is Calvin Ridley, another Alabama wide receiver that was slight of build coming out of college, and he's doing an excellent job out there in Atlanta. I mean, he torched us when we played Atlanta, last season. So, I mean, I get it. I get what you're saying because that size worries me as well. But he's still a little young. His body's not matured yet. So I believe he can get up to about 190 pounds and be a good, solid receiver. I'm not sure if we, jump up and grab him, in that first round. But he's going to be a steal somewhere for someone.
He's got a really weird frame, man. Calvin Ridley was almost 20 pounds heavier than Devontae Smith when he came out. The thing to keep in mind with Devontae Smith and his frame is he was at Alabama, one of the best strength and conditioning programs in the nation, if not the best. And he gained 5 pounds over his entire career there. He went from 165 to 170, and he doesn't plan on playing at 170. I think he's going to play closer to 165. And it's not just his weight; he's over 6 feet. This is all length, man. He's all bones, and it's just a really weird frame. I don't know that he ever gets higher than 170. I don't even know if he ever gets all the way up to 175. He's just got such a weird, unique frame. But like Doe said, man, you watch him on the field, and he's just one of those guys where you have to set that aside and be like, I don't know if it matters that much, but if it doesn't, this is a really, really good player. This is a guy that you can throw to at any point. He's all over the field. I love watching Devontae Smith play.
Oh man, this comment right here is great. Dion,
joke.
Look, I don't even have that hair right now. It is still coming. I don't know what I can do. I can't get away from it. It's just this is what it is at this point. I just gotta roll with it.
That is a great comment, Will. That is great. That is an excellent comment.
So what do you feel, Rachel, about Devonta Smith?
I mean, I agree with Dion and Math Bomb. I think he'd be important if we held on to Jared Goff. He's a wide receiver that can create separation. And if they're going to roll with Goff, then we need wide receivers exactly like that to succeed, which it looks like they're going to do. So, I wouldn't be mad.
It's called a weight room and milkshakes, Jay White. Protein shakes, Jay White says. Okay.
I mean, but to Math Bond's credit, some people just have that high metabolism, and it's just kind of really hard for them to gain weight, no matter how much they, lift weights and drink 8,000 pounds of whey protein. They just can't gain weight. I mean, it's just for some people they have to go to really extremes. It's kind of taking like really medicine to kind of and
it's not necessarily healthy.
Yeah, it is, because those weight gainers can be detrimental to your health. And we don't know how they affect as far as drug testing. Are these things legal to take in the NFL? So to be honest, just to be honest, because you don't know what they test for. So is this something that's going to affect his his playing status because he's taking a supplement that may be on the ban list to try to gain weight?
Now, just to let everyone know how this is going. We really preach offensive line here. Lines on the prowl. We've been going up Panay Sewell or Rashawn Slater in that spot to kind of make something out of the offensive line and kind of create an identity, maybe a run first thing. So there's a lot of hate for that quarterback thing there, Matt Bomb.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I get it. And I see the quote about the cap. I understand the cap. I totally get the cap implications of it. That's why taking Goff on was a bad idea, because we're rebuilding. Taking on a quarterback that's that bad with that big of a cap hit is a bad idea. But they got him. He's going to be here. The thing about it is this isn't Madden. We have time to develop a quarterback. And when you take on a quarterback that you want to be the face of your franchise, to build your franchise around, they don't have to start year one. Patrick Mahomes didn't start year one. I mean, he's your brother, right? He should be able to tell you. But we know he got a little time off.
Okay.
You take a little bit of that. You take a little bit of that pressure off. Goff's not going anywhere this year, and he's probably not going anywhere next year. That doesn't mean that he's starting both of these years. It just means he's going to be here. Teams eat bad cap hits all the time. The Lions are going to pay Matthew Stafford $15 million. He ain't playing here neither. So it's not about picking him up and dropping him. This isn't Madden. We can't do that. It's about picking up a player you can build your franchise around. I think that's the best way to do it. Now, again, I don't think that's what they're going to do. I think the Lions are punting to 2022, which is a horrible QB class right now. At least right now it looks like. They're punting to 2022 and hoping that they can land one of those guys. But it's a significantly better class this year than we're looking at next year. So
why can't Goff be our QB, Jay White says?
He has almost no mobility. He has a very limited arm strength, and that's just the physical stuff that's holding him back. You watch him playing for the Rams, they started to simplify their offense, and he got worse at it. He stares down his receivers. He's not accurate throwing to them. He doesn't have good timing with the guys he's playing with. Everything started to fall apart the moment Goff loses anything he's comfortable with, and this is a rebuilding franchise. The Lions aren't the Pro Bowl level Rams. We are the drafting in the top 10 Lions with a gutted roster and a brand new coaching staff.
Didn't you know it's all about the quarterback? I mean, come on.
They don't have the offensive line to hold up. They got a decent offensive line, but not a great one. We don't have the run game. We're hoping that it improves with Swift, but we hope that it improves with Carryon. And the same thing happens with every early running back we get. They do well year one, they get hurt year two. 2022 class is horrible. We just did our 2022 rankings for the mock draft simulator for Pro Football Network. This quarterback class is garbage compared to this year. There's some good guys, but it's compared to this year, really bad.
So they just released Maurice Hurst from the Raiders. And what do you think about that? And I'm going to start with Rachel. We're going to go around the panel on this one. You think this is a good pickup for the Lions if the Lions could get him?
To be completely honest, It's neither here nor there for me, really. I don't know too much about her, so answering this question is like, I'll just say I don't know enough about him as a player to see whether or not.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Sorry, my kitten's also like biting my feet right now too, so I got distracted.
I guess I'm kind of similar boat. I mean, I haven't, kept tabs on Mo Hurst. I don't know what he's doing now or how well he's playing. Must not be that great, but I mean, yeah, I liked him out of Michigan, that's for sure. But I do like our defensive line depth. I'm sure he could be, cheap depth, I guess, at this point. I like it, though. I like where we're going with our defensive line. I'm excited to see Cornell next season when he comes back and healthy. But I guess it'd probably just be a depth move. I mean, I don't know what level he's playing at right now, but it's probably not a great one, I'm assuming.
I think he'd be more than a depth move. That's just my opinion. But what do you got, Kurt? What do you think about Maurice Hurst?
I would, for the right price, I would like to move to get Maurice Hurst. We have a lot of defensive ends and a lot of edge guys, but the defensive tackle position, is kind of lacking. Kevin Strong is a good guy. I believe that he'll be able to step up from him. So, I mean, I like Penasini, of course, Brockers, but, then you have a lot of interchangeable guys like, Hand, who can play inside or outside. But
when healthy.
Yeah, when healthy. But he gives us a legitimate defensive tackle with depth that we don't have right now. So, that'd be the guy that definitely I would take him just for that. He's a step up from some of the guys that we have on the roster right now.
What do you think about Maurice Hurst, Matt Baum? You think it'd be a good pickup for us, or?
I like John's comment about getting rid of Nick Williams, but I don't think Williams is going anywhere. They gave him a pay cut so that he could stick around. I don't know why. He was one of our worst players last year. Maurice Hurst was one of the best pass rushers on the interior for the Raiders. He's a good player. He's not a great player. He definitely didn't live up to the hype that he had coming out of Michigan. There's been some medical issues. He still has that heart problem that's going to give some teams pause because teams have that.
Oh, he's perfect for us then.
Yeah, right. But I think as a depth piece, I don't think it's really going to hurt too much. I mean, there's a lot worse players you could pick up than Mo Hurst.
We have a question for you, Matt Baum, and so how much of a difference in pro day times? I think he's talking about 40 times compared to combine times. Have you noticed this year? None.
And that's a lot of people are huffing and hawing about the how times are juiced this year and everything. Oh, with no combine, it's just free for all. It's really not. We're not seeing much of a difference, if at all. We've actually had fewer sub 4.3 times than I think we've ever had. It's almost none. I think we've only had a 2 or 3 sub 4.3s that stuck. The things people got to remember and what makes this year different is that we don't have a combine, so we don't get official times until a week, 2 weeks after these pro days. So most of the crap that you're hearing about the day of the pro days is garbage anyway. It's not going to be their official times. The actual schools themselves have been very good at releasing the numbers. They've been bad at releasing the numbers. When they do release the numbers, they've been very close to what the official numbers have been, which is better than we've had in previous years. They're a lot closer to what we get when the final numbers come out. But as far as numbers being juiced, very, very, very little, if at all, this year. The biggest issue is volume. We have less players testing, so it seems like we're getting all these ridiculous ones because those are the numbers we are getting. We are getting all those players that would have been at the combine. We're not getting all the numbers for guys that wouldn't have tested as well because they wouldn't have made it to the combine, the guys that wouldn't have qualified for the combine. So there's no real significant difference. The only issue that we've had with times between the combine and the pro day is the reporting of splits has been pretty poor this year, the 20 and 10-yard splits. It's been all over the place in terms of accuracy, whether or not we get them from some of the schools. Some of them have just been like, we'll have a ridiculous 10 split, even though the guy runs like a 5.4 40 or something. And it's like, well, that's the number I have. It isn't right. I'm sure it doesn't. It's not real in any sense of the word, but whatever. That's what we have. That's the data we got. But most people don't care about that. They care about the 40, and the 40 has been the same as every other year or less.
How does that affect you? Not being able to be at the combine or not being able to get all the cone drill scores, all the other things that you normally would do instead of this pro day stuff. We're a little set up, I think, but does that affect your scores at all?
No, because I use pro day times anyway. I use it to supplement the combine data. So it doesn't really impact anything that I do. I just have more asterisks this year. And it's a pro day time, so you got to add a certain amount of time to it. This guy was running in bad weather, or the turf conditions were really poor. The turf conditions at Pitt, for instance, were pretty poor this year. It's just making note of those things. I have to do more. And that's it's also more work because it's over a greater deal of time. Like
Right.
most of the guys that are testing at pro days, I'm like, okay, I have this Wednesday, I have to pay attention to this guy, and then I can enter the rest of those guys whenever. But with no combine, it's like, okay, there's 23 players I have to keep track of today and try to find numbers for, and then follow up on later, and contacting scouts and agents and schools, and it's way more work than it has been any other year.
Right. Here's another good question for you, Math Bomb. JGB says, at Math Bomb, what do you think Jamal Williams adds to the running back room?
I love Jamal Williams. He didn't have a good RAS, so if you're ever one of those guys that thinks I only like high RAS guys, no. I also like Corn Elder. He had a terrible RAS, and I called that before he even measured. Jamal Williams is a good back. He's not a game breaker. He's not a starting running back, a guy that you're going to put out there and hope to get you 1,000 yards. He's a great complementary back, and the Lions only need a complementary back. They need a guy that's going to be able to spell DeAndre Swift. He can catch the football, which means that you can use him in your passing situations. He's a good blocker, so you don't have to pull him off the field and worry about getting your quarterback killed. And he's a good enough runner that you can put him out there and get those goal line carries or short yardage or even the mid and first round carries, wherever you need him. He's a very good utility back who can do pretty much anything. And I don't know if you guys have seen the interviews with him, but he's a riot. He's a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah, we have.
very likable player. So I'm totally on board with the signing. I really like Jamal Williams.
Yeah, I do too, actually. I think he adds a lot. I think he adds a lot of energy that we need too. We get a lot of energy guys, to go along with Dan Campbell and that high energy that he runs with all the time. I want to ask you a question, Matt Baum. What do you think of the offseason so far, and what does it tell you about the new regime?
Excluding the Goff thing, obviously you guys haven't not a fan of that at all. Excluding that, I think the Lions have done a really good job. I wasn't a huge fan of getting Brad Holmes because his track record at quarterback has been terrible. And we need, like I said, I believe that we need a quarterback. He's tended to draft guys who are immobile, small-armed guys, and then he traded for one. But he's been really good at identifying talent on defense, at every position on defense. Everyone. There's no holes to how he's evaluated talent on defense, both in valuation and evaluation, figuring out where guys should be selected or how much they should be paid, and then whether the guys are good or not. I had some concerns about how he would do in free agency. He's got a lot of guys in his ear. The Lions have no money, so they didn't really do much in free agency. I think they did the best they could with what they have. They were very limited, further hamstrung by the trade. But they're rebuilding. You're not going to get any big signings this year anyway, so I wasn't worried about it. Most of the free agents that they got, I've been pretty on board with. I like the wide receiver signings that we had. I love injecting speed right now. I really think they need to heavy correct for how the last regime handled speed on the football field. Yep. We need speed at every position, including the offensive line. Everybody.
Yes,
everybody needs speed.
Even Waterboy needs to be.
Yeah, Waterboy, concession stand, peanut vendors, beer guys, everybody in the concession, trainers, get the tape out there on the field. I mean, everybody needs speed on the Detroit Lions.
You order some peanuts, they better sprint that to your chair.
Better sprint that thing to the chair.
I made a joke if Penei Sewell was there, they should hand the card to Brashad Perryman, but he might drop the card.
He might drop it. He'll get up there fast.
Or trip and shatter.
Got that speed, but I'm not so sure about that. That's.
But yeah, overall, I think they've done a pretty good job. With one glaring issue that I have, but everything else they've done a pretty good job with. I haven't had too many issues with the signings. The retaining Nick Williams over Danny Shelton, I think, was a mistake.
Yeah, I didn't like that either.
But I mean, you're talking about guys that should be backups on your team anyway, so it's quibbling at that point.
They like lighter defensive tackles over in LA anyway.
Another big change.
Yeah. So, Dorsey Dion back with us. Thanks you for being back with us, man. I don't know what happened there, but
I don't know. I don't know. I thought something was going on because everybody started showing loading things. I was like, oh, maybe like he's glitching or something, and then it just went out. I'm like, oh, okay, I guess it was me.
It was you.
It was me.
Out.
I should
I'm
know.
sorry.
I did it.
No, I
the
didn't
Matrix
do it.
is Friday, you know.
I think this is another question for you, Matt Baum, is do you think Paris Ford is a better athlete than his pro day shows? His tape showed a lot better athleticism than his testing.
So the answer to your question, the way you worded it, is yes. I do think he's a better athlete than how he tested. I don't think he's a good athlete. Paris Ford tested horrendously at his pro day. So it's not a matter of whether he's a good athlete, because I don't believe that he is. I think he's better than how he tested. I don't think he's somebody that Brad Holmes will consider. I mentioned that Holmes has been very good at evaluating NFL talent. He's extremely good at evaluating safeties. And safeties don't have to have elite testing to be a good safety. And Brad Holmes has figured out one of those types that you can pick. Guys that maybe they don't run the best 40, but they have really good explosion drills and their 10 split is good, or they have really good agility drills. They can show that football speed if they have the right instincts. I don't believe Paris Ford is one of those guys. There are a few guys in this draft, particularly cornerbacks, that could convert to safety. Trill Williams is one example. Guys that I think that Brad Holmes will have his sights set on once the draft night actually occurs. We're probably going to draft at least one safety, and that might be a corner. It might be a corner that we convert. So I'm very excited for what Brad Holmes does on the defensive side of the ball.
Me too.
I like how you brought that up, that explosiveness, and that's one of the traits that both Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes said that they like in players. They like players who are explosive. So I like that statement that you said. That goes back to their philosophy on drafting players that they want on the team as well.
There's a question for you, Rachel. Do you think rocket scientists should coach NFL football teams?
I mean, I can only think of one example, and I'm gonna. It's a resounding no from me based on that.
I knew you'd come up with something good. What about you, Dion? What do you think about that? Should we ever, or do you think rocket scientists should coach NFL football teams?
I say give them a shot, see what they can do. Especially.
I think we did. We had fun with that question. What do you think, Kurt?
Shauna J. I've said this before. We play our game on Die Hard Den podcast. It's a hell yeah or hell nah, and I'm gonna go with the hell nah. Just based off the experience, like you said, I've only had witnessed one try to do it, and I'm like, yeah. But apparently he's heavily involved with the Patriots draft. I don't know.
Yeah, thank goodness, because then the Patriots will be horrible for years.
I think he's taking notes for Bill Belichick, but I don't know what he's doing. But God bless him. That's all I can say.
Oh goodness, Matt Baum, your mustache is getting love, man.
I love it.
It really is.
As an adult male, I'm almost 40 years old. You don't get complimented on your looks a whole lot, even if you're this prick. But I'll tell you what, man. Ever since I got this thing, man, I get some just random people yelling, "Hey, man, nice stash." That makes you feel really good. And I think that men in general should normalize just complimenting other guys on their appearance more often. It makes you feel really good. It's a very unexpected shot of dopamine that you get when that stuff goes on. So thank you all for your comments. I love it.
Yeah, there you go. Patrick Mahomes' little brother. That's a good look though. So
yeah,
you know what I'm saying? That's not a bad thing.
There could be worse. Like it could be,
It could be Matt Patricia
related to other.
Not the Luigi.
He said Luigi.
Mario
Would
Luigi.
be worse.
Ooh, sorry.
Be worse.
Oh wow.
Gosh.
Don Burr has a question for Matt Baum. What effect does John Dorsey have in the front office?
Love having John Dorsey in the front office. So I mentioned before that I wasn't very confident in Brad Holmes' ability to evaluate quarterbacks. That was my concern when they picked him up. But They hired Dan Campbell as their head coach. They have Anthony Lynn as their offensive coordinator, and they've got John Dorsey. All of those are really good signs for the ability to evaluate quarterbacks. Dan Campbell's quotes on a quarterback: he wants a guy that's mobile with a big arm. That's what you should be looking for in a quarterback nowadays. Dorsey's always had that type of philosophy. He's willing to overlook certain technical deficiencies if he sees a player that can be developed into a starting quarterback. Patrick Mahomes is a perfect example. I was really high on Patrick Mahomes. I had him as my number 2 overall player, but most people didn't. Most people had him as their second or third quarterback because he had some technical hitches to his game. And they're able to find that, develop that. I like what Dorsey brings in that arena, because if you have a GM who has something that could be perceived as a weak spot, he should look for people who can fix that for him. That's what a general manager's job is. Hire the right people. It's not picking all the right people yourself. Hire the right people. Hiring somebody like Dorsey, who has a different type of philosophy to Brad Holmes, is a really smart move. I think it offers way more to the franchise than we're really looking at right now. I'm only looking at one position, but even the positions that Holmes is good at, like his defensive players, getting a guy like Dorsey is going to get you somebody in that room with a different type of philosophy, a different look at analytics, a different look at traditional metrics, and a different look at how character impacts how the player can be picked. Not saying that Dorsey's just going to go out and pick every bad character guy. I know he had that reputation for a couple of his stops about just picking up problem children. It's not that. It's a matter about risk and valuation. Holmes is already really good at valuation for most positions. Getting a guy like Dorsey in there, I think, challenges some of those views. I think it's a good sign that Holmes is recognizing some of the things that he does well and does poorly, and is trying to do better at everything.
I like the checks and balances system we got. I like Spielman in the front office. I like I like Kevin Agnew there too. I mean, that's another guy, that you can kind of bounce ideas off too. The other thing is here our chat is really crazy today, but I love it. Dion, what is the penalty for biting kneecaps? Is it going to be 5 yards for the attempt and 15 yards for the decapping?
I think that'd be closer to 15. I don't know if 5's enough for that.
If you just bite the kneecap, it's 5 yards, and he's saying if you take it off, then it's 15. What do you think about that?
Because you'd have
Sounds
to
fair.
pull helmet off.
It sounds fair. What do you think about that, Rachel? We're having so much fun today.
The league doesn't like this joke as much, so I think decapping is going to be an ejection.
Ooh, bring in the heavy lumber. Oh, if we hear another team likes a player in the draft, can we not go after them and stick to our own board? I think we stick to our own board. I don't care what other team.
That's a Jelani Tavai joke. So there, I like it.
Definitely a Jelani Tavai joke.
Yeah.
The slowest player I've ever seen.
Man, that's the worst. I've said this several times. When the guys in the studio kind of look at each other like, who the hell? I'm like,
I had to go to commercial. So
well, moving right along. It's just, I don't know. That's crazy.
Explain how the Ravens won with Dilfer. They had a great defense.
They got a great defense.
The Rams had the number 1 defense in the league last year. I mean, there's a reason that good teams can win, but your quarterback's still got to hit a certain mark, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, he answered it. Don answered it. You got it, Don. We don't have to say nothing.
Yeah, see? Okay, this is for Math Bomb again from Steve-O. Would you draft Elijah Molden, a player who has great tape but not a great RAS score?
So I'm glad that he got brought up. I haven't had a chance to talk about Molden a whole lot, but Molden is one of those interesting cases because he's a cornerback who didn't test all that well. He only ran a 4.59, but he got injured during his I think it was his broad jump he got hurt on. He got hurt during his pro day. So he didn't test well, but there is an asterisk to that in that he injured himself and still tried to test. I don't think he would have finished his pro day with a great time. I still think he would have ran probably close to that 4.59 that he unofficially ran. But he falls into that special type of player that Brad Holmes likes to identify. Safeties that aren't necessarily top end fast, but they're explosive. And what's important about those type of safeties is NFL is all a game about inches, right? We hear that all the time. It's a game of inches. The thing about the safety position is it's the safety net. It's the guys who are supposed to prevent big plays from happening. You know, you want a guy that's rangy on the backfield, but ranginess isn't necessarily just straight line speed. If you can react to where the ball is going to go fast enough, and you can get in motion fast enough and get to your top speed fast enough, it doesn't matter that your top speed isn't the best because you're already moving and you're already covering ground faster than somebody else would. You have a head start. Those type of players are really important. You've seen that for several of the guys that Brad Holmes has drafted for the Rams. It's a very important trait to have, and Holmes is very good at identifying it. I think Molden is certainly going to be a guy that he's looking at, probably more to play that nickel rotating safety than to play straight cornerback.
So the rest of the question, it's like he's saying, do you have somebody that's great tape but not a great RAS score, or Marco Wilson, a player with a great RAS score but not good on tape? So which player would you choose, I think is the question.
So the former in most cases, and well, in this case anyway, because Marco Wilson, I don't know if you guys know any Florida fans, but Marco Wilson is probably the most loathed player in the state of Florida ever. I can't think of anybody that's had more hate thrown at him than Marco Wilson is. Thrown at him like a shoe, an errant shoe. So some of you will get that reference too, but it depends. It depends on the position. To answer your question, it depends on the position. If you're looking at day 3 cornerbacks, I'm definitely taking a guy that didn't test well versus a guy that did in most situations, because if your tape is awful, the traits don't really matter all that much at cornerback. Now, if we're talking tight end, I'm never taking a bad athlete at tight end, period. Hard stop. So Brevin Jordan fans, sorry, it's not a guy that I would get behind. Tight ends just don't win if they've got bad testing.
I'm gonna actually go around the panel on this one. Who do you take at pick 7? Doesn't have to be a player. You can put a position in there. If you want to do the player, that's fine. I'll start with Rachel.
We talked about this last week, and I pretty much said it probably every show that I've been on. I'm on board with you guys with an offensive tackle. If Sewell fell, oh my gosh. I mean, I put a wishful thinking tweet up about Sewell falling to 7, and everybody was like, it would never happen. But if it did, that would be my pick.
I could see a scenario where it would happen if
Pray for Matt
Cincy
Jones.
takes Chase. If Cincy takes Chase, we might be able to get him.
Yeah, Sewell would be a dream pick at 7 for me. I do like Rashawn Slater as well, but I'm definitely in on an offensive tackle. I really want to see this team take their run game in the direction we've been trying to put together for so many years now, and it's just not working out. So that's my ideal scenario at 7.
Mm-hmm. Math Bomb, I'm going to have you repeat it because Dr. Detroit had joined us late and he asked the question of you.
So my ideal pick was if either Lance or Fields falls, the Lions take a quarterback. If that doesn't happen, and I don't expect it to, I would take Sewell immediately if he was there. Jamar Chase, I would take Devontae Smith or Jalen Waddle. There's risks with each of those receivers, but I think they're all fantastic picks. I do like Rashawn Slater. I don't value him high enough to take him at 7. He's a really good player. To tell you how good he is and to tell you how good Sewell is, if you watch Rashawn Slater on tape and see how good he is and how athletic he is and how powerful he is and how great he is at blocking, just think to yourself, if he were 5 years younger, would he be a better pick? And you have Penei Sewell. Penei Sewell was 5 years younger than Rashawn Slater's best tape when he put up his best tape. And that's insane because Slater's not old. He's only going to be 23 when the draft starts. But Penei Sewell put up some of the best offensive line tape you'll ever watch at 17 freaking years old. And he's only going to be 20 when he's drafted.
Wow.
So
that's a big difference, 3 years.
That's a big difference.
It really is. It's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my reasoning. I would be fine with Slater. He's a guy I would take, but he's a fantastic player.
Joseph Dion, who do you got at number 7 for the Lions?
Yeah, if I'm stuck at 7, I'm still definitely on the offensive line side there. But I still like my guy Micah. You know, barring the off-the-field stuff, I don't know how they're going to feel about that. On the field, I'm a big Micah Parsons fan. I actually did some stuff on him last night. I definitely think he's the best linebacker, and I could just see just wanting a ton of talent in there with Spielman and those guys. So, yeah, those are the 2 positions I'd look at for sure if I was sitting and stuck at 7 if I couldn't move back. If I move back, then I think receiver definitely comes into play for me. I wouldn't hate a receiver because I could definitely see it happening as we touched on last time. But yeah, I definitely am bigger on the other positions. I like some receivers a little bit later. So yeah, let's leave it there, I guess.
All right, Kurt.
Yeah, Slater Rasul, definitely. And I can see Penei Sewell, and the reason is kind of far-fetched for me, but I kind of see a scenario where the Bengals may jump up and grab Chase, just because of the fact that if you look, they went out and grabbed Thaddeus Moss. So they're trying to get some players around Joe Burrow that he's familiar with. So it may be a fact where they try to bring in a familiar face with Jamar Chase. They just lost AJ Green, so they have a glaring hole at playmaker in Cincinnati. So that may be a thing where they may go after Jamar Chase to bring him in to team him up again with Joe Burrow.
So next question by Big West Kivinen. What do you think about Jamar Johnson? I'm going to go over to you, Dion. What do you think of Jamar Johnson, the safety?
I'm a big Jamar Johnson fan. Done stuff on him a while ago. I like Jamar Johnson for our scheme fit. I think he slides right into one of those split safety roles because that's what he looked to do at Indiana as well. I just feel like he's always in the right place. I don't think athletically he's a top notch there. So I think that's probably where he's going to be somewhat limited. But I definitely think a team that could use more of a playmaker in the back end right now, I think he could fit that mold. And, I'm expecting to see a lot of split safety sets. I'm a big Jamar Johnson fan. I think there's things he needs to clean up. Definitely tackling, if I'm remembering correctly. That was kind of ugly watching some of that. But definitely I feel like he's a guy that can be in the right place, make some big plays for your secondary.
That's good. That's good. What do you think, Rachel? What do you think about that? Jamar Johnson.
This is another guy that I don't really know a lot about. And if you guys want to know the funny thing, I get a lot of the information on the players in the draft from Math Bomb. On like a lot of the stuff that Math Bomb posts is where I'm actually getting my information about the guys that might go in later rounds that I'm not really taking the harder looks at. So kudos to you, Math Bomb. You are providing me with most of my information.
You're the bomb.
Do what I can.
There you go.
How about you, Kurt? What do you think of
Jamar Johnson? One of the better safeties in the Big Ten last year. But he does have some quirks to his game that needs to be fixed. And Dion, kind of alluded to it. A little bit better tackling. But I will be interested to see if we can get him. A little bit later in the draft. And I'll come back to my homie RB Flintstone extraordinaire, what he could do with a guy like Jamar Chase and Jamar Johnson. So it could be one of the things where he, there's definitely room for him to grow and to be able to become a top-notch safety. I like him teamed up with Tracy Walker back there in the back end of our defense.
Yeah, I like that. What do you think, Matt? I saved you for last because I think you probably have some information on this guy. I'm not sure, but
Yeah, I think Johnson is fine. I think he's a good day 2 safety. I agree that I don't think I would take him that early on day 2. I think he's probably more of a 3rd round guy than a 2nd round guy. Right around where we got Walker, I'd be totally on board with it. He's probably going to start day 1. I'm not sure that he would certainly start day 1. I think there's some upside there. He is a little bit limited in how much range he has on the field. He's not the fastest guy out there, and he's pretty explosive. But I mentioned before, I've mentioned like 3 times now about how Holmes does at evaluating safeties. He just barely hits those benchmarks that Holmes likes to look for at safety. So I'm not sure how the value is going to look for him there. I wouldn't take him in round 2. I would definitely take him in round 3. I think he'd be a really good pick there.
Okay,
but he's got good ball skills, and we need that.
Pistons talk. What's good, man? What's good? Part of the DSA. Shout out to the DSA family. Yeah, we're mostly a part of that. So on here right now. Yeah. Okay, we got that's about it for questions that way, but that's okay because I've got tons of them. I always do. So in this draft, what do you think our biggest needs are besides, you said, the quarterback position? I think offensive tackle is a position I would like to address, but what are the positions that you think need to be addressed through the entire draft?
Who was that directed to? Me?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So I already mentioned the big one. If the Lions don't get a 1st round quarterback, they should not draft a quarterback day 2. Hard stop. There are no day 2 quarterbacks worth taking in this draft. Wow. So don't get your hopes up for a 2nd or 3rd round guy. And if the Lions take one, it's a flag. It's not a good thing. It's something you should be worried about. Day through 3, there's a couple of guys, Kellen Mond, Jamie Newman, that have a little bit of upside, some stuff there that you can build with. But we're talking like way out there.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure that drafting those types of guys with somebody like Jared Goff is very helpful. It doesn't really provide a whole lot of benefit. So I don't think Lions should take a quarterback at all if they don't get one with their first pick. Their biggest need is wide receiver. They've got a couple of guys under contract for this year, but only this year. They need to get some long-term options at wide receiver. And again, I wouldn't be surprised if they double dip day 1 and day 2 at wide receiver. It's a strong class at the top, and there's some pretty good depth. The Lions are going for speed. There's a lot of fast guys. Go for it. You mentioned offensive tackle. We do need an offensive tackle. I don't think that's something they should neglect. There's a lot of really, really strong offensive tackle in this class. Talent in this class, both athletically and just talent on the field. Holmes has been a little bit spotty with his offensive line picks. He doesn't value athleticism, I think, the way that he should. And he's had some misses with some of the guys that he's picked up, particularly his depth pieces have been pretty poor. I think that if he's going to go after an offensive tackle, it should be a right tackle primary guy that can slip inside to guard. And there are a ton of those guys. We're in a really good spot in this draft to pick up a tackle that fits exactly what the Lions are looking for right now with their round 2 or even their round 3 pick. 2 guys to watch that I think that the Lions might be interested in because, as I said, Holmes doesn't necessarily value athleticism as much, is James Hudson and Jalen Mayfield out of Michigan. Both of those guys tested really poorly for offensive tackle. Both of those guys are right tackle primaries, could switch inside to guard, and they're probably going to slip out of day 2. So day 3, if those guys are still there, those are guys I think that Holmes might look to who could still potentially start early on in their careers. Outside of quarterback, wide receiver, and offensive tackle, we have safety, linebacker, defensive end, and defensive tackle, every level of the defense. It's got to be restocked. We need speed. Get fast guys back there, explosive guys that can move, and get this defense restocked. I think our defense is in a lot better shape than a lot of people think because of how mismanaged a lot of the players that we had were last year. That said, there's pieces missing everywhere, and they need pieces everywhere. And somebody just mentioned Jabril Cox. He's supposed to be doing his pro day this week. Another guy that should come up day 2 who fits that type of guy that the Lions are looking for, fast, rangy guys. So those are the type of guys they should be looking at, guys that can move on a football field. This place, it's just been so slow for so long. They've got to get some speed here.
Yeah, I totally understand. This is kind of a tough question, I think. How many defensive players are we first round worthy? First round's 32 picks, so I think there's quite a few. But
first round worthy is rarely 32 picks, though.
Yeah, that's true. But I got Surtain. I got because I think he's probably going to be a top 10 pick. I don't know what you think about Patrick Surtain. Yeah, that's what I thought too. Let's see. We have a lot of questions. We got to move forward. Question for Math Bomb. Realistically, how far would you move back in the first round if you had to trade, or you got to trade back if there's an offer? I don't know that we're going to get one.
So it's going to sound sacrilegious because I run a simulator, but you can't go by what a lot of the simulators have for how many times you can trade back. The Lions are probably going to trade back if they get an offer and they don't have a quarterback on the board. But the chances of them getting an offer with no quarterbacks on the board is pretty small. I have no problem with them moving any distance back, provided that the compensation package that they get matches it in value. If they can move all the way back down to 32 or even out of the first round entirely from top 7. And as long as they get compensation back that matches that, I'd be fine with it. We're rebuilding, and we only have a few picks this year. Gather up as many picks as you can. I think that they're more likely to trade back from their second round pick than their first round pick.
That's what I thought too. Yeah.
So that's the one I would really pay attention to, is when they're on the clock in the second. But I'd be okay with any distance back. If they miss out on a top guy, there's plenty of talent here, and the Lions just need more talent.
So, Rachel, how far back would you go in the first round, realistically?
I mean, I'm definitely on the same page as Math Bomb in this. I think he nailed the answer with it. As far back as they can go, as long as the compensation package is worth their while. That's where I'm at with it too. I think the more draft capital, the better. So as long as, Kitten is playing with the computer now.
Wants to be part of the show.
All over the place. She's biting my feet. She's like, why doesn't anybody want to see me? But yeah, I'm with Matt Baum on that. As long as the compensation's right, then they can move as far back as 30 for all I care. As long as the value is there.
How far would you move back?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of defer to those answers. As long as the compensation's correct. I really wouldn't want to move. I probably would say 20 and up. So I'm saying maybe that that mid to late first round. I like that. I like that area of the draft. But if they're giving up some big time draft or excuse me, like I said before, some assets, not just because, like I've said before, draft picks aren't just draft capital. They're assets for your team. You can use them to trade for other players and, that nature. So if we can get some good assets or capital, I would be for really moving back wherever.
Yeah, I don't really want to move back too far because just the quality of the player. If they're blown away by an offer, I can see it. But for me, I don't really want to go any farther than like 15 to 17, 15 right in there. Just because
we're kind of seeing
you're starting to dilute the talent a little bit, so I'm like, I don't know. There's a couple of people I like there though, but
yeah.
All right, let's get to these questions because we got about 9 minutes left. What do you think of Monty Rice, a third-round linebacker? This is probably directed towards you, Matt Baum.
Yeah, because I don't know who that is.
he's all right. Monty Rice is fine. He's your typical Georgia linebacker. He's pretty rangy. He's pretty fast. He didn't test out as well as was expected at his pro day, which is a flag because he's one of those guys that wins with athleticism. But he didn't test poorly, and he didn't test bad. So it's not that it's going to disqualify him. I don't think I would take him in the third round anyway. I know he's projected to go in that range because, again, Georgia linebacker. But I think he's more an early day 3 guy than a late day 2.
Okay. Thoughts on a couple 5th round guys, Matt Baum, Garrett Wallow, and Seth Williams and James Hudson. Okay, I guess 3 guys.
3 guys. Well, Garrett Wallow is a very athletic linebacker. I believe it's TCU that he's from. He's a really athletic guy. There's a lot of tools there. Totally worth taking a flyer on if you're going to do that. Again, I'm all for restocking speed, and he's got that.
Yep.
Hudson was one of the guys I mentioned. He didn't test all that well, and he was billed as this elite athlete, and it was expected to just wow everybody at his pro day, and he did so bad at his poor day. His poor day. His poor day. His poor day. It was his poor day.
His poor day.
But it was just really bad. It wasn't just that he tested poorly; it's that he tested really poorly. And this was a guy who was expected to win by athleticism. This isn't an Orlando Brown situation who tested worse, but Orlando Brown won by his length, his size, his ability to outbox opponents and keep them out of his space rather than being more athletic and more quick than him. That's not how Hudson's tape looked. And the fact that he tested as poorly as he did is a pretty big flag for him. But again, I mentioned before, I think that the way that Holmes' history goes, he might be somebody the Lions pay attention to. Seth Williams is one of your big explosive, pretty fast wide receivers that you can get. As I said, I'm all for getting some speed. Seth Williams is a 1-speed receiver. So you'll hear about guys who put on that second gear. Williams is more, I build up speed and now I'm at my full speed and that's where I'm going. He doesn't break off at the top of his route very often. He's a good developmental piece. He's got that size and explosiveness, probably really good in the short range. You can use him in the red zone pretty well. He's a good player to pick up in the later rounds.
All right, Matt Baum, will you dare draft Micah Parsons at 7 or is he dropping like a rock?
I wouldn't, and I think he should drop like a rock. Those character stuff that keeps coming up, it's got legs to it, and it's not just the really bad stuff from Penn State. It's also the regular bad stuff from his time at Penn State, and it has to do with his coachability and his maturity as a person. There's people who have known him his whole life who are not banging the drum for people to just ignore those things. They're like, yeah, he's a bit immature. He does not come across as a team leader, as the kind of guy that you can put in a locker room and build your defense around. And I've said this a million times. We are a rebuilding football team. You need people that you can build around. And I'm not sure that Micah Parsons is the guy. I'm actually pretty sure that he wouldn't be for me. As far as the really bad stuff, after the whole fiasco with Matt Patricia and what came up with him right after the Lions had signed him as their head coach, I don't think that they even take that risk with Micah Parsons. The amount of flack that the Lions got and how bad they looked as a franchise, going from that to Micah Parsons and the stuff that he was accused of at Penn State would be a really bad look. And I don't think that this ownership is going to take that kind of a risk. I'm not going to go into too much detail. I don't want to derail the football talk here. But if you're concerned about more of what that stuff is, you can look up what Parsons is accused of doing. And again, this is accused of. It's not something that he's guilty of. He was never convicted of anything. But he also wasn't cleared of anything either. It's kind of this amorphous Schrodinger's problem child, right? We don't know whether he did or whether he didn't. But for the Lions, I would steer clear.
Okay. Thoughts on Caden Stearns, Texas safety, former 5-star #1 safety coming out of high school. What do you think of him?
Very athletic. He's one of the most athletic safeties in this class, and it's not a very athletic safety class. I think he's going to go fairly high day 3 or late day 2. I don't think he's going to go early day 2. There's still some stuff north of the neckline that he's got to work on. I think that he's a guy that's going to be fairly well ranked on Brad Holmes' board. He doesn't fall into that special subtype of safeties, just the normal, really athletic, rangy safety stuff. But I think he's going to rate him pretty well, and I think that he's a good pickup if the Lions end up getting him.
All right. I'm going to take this one. And I'm going to do the panel. So what side of the ball do you think is going to win us games this year? Neither. No, I'm kidding.
You're right.
I'm going to have to. Wow. Special teams. I don't know. What do you think, Rachel? What side of the ball is going to win us games this year?
Man, yeah. If anything, I would say offense by a hair, barely.
Right.
And it's just because I really don't know either. On paper and on the field are two totally different things. But
yes,
even looking at it on paper, my confidence isn't staggering. So, just to pick one, I'd say offense by a smidge.
Right. You're kind of flipping a coin and seeing which one it is. Yeah, I kind of do the same.
Totally.
How about you, Kurt? What side of the ball is going to win us more games this year?
To be honest with you, it depends on the game. To be honest with you, it could be a coin flip. Either game, the 4 or 5 games that we might win this year, it could be offense, it could be defense, it could be special teams. It could be the trainers. I don't know.
Could be a miracle.
It could be
coaches.
I mean, it's just one of those things where I just don't see a lot of positive things on either side of the ball that's going to win us, a ton of games this year.
Yeah. What do you think, Matt Bomb? Which side of the ball is going to win it?
Win? Well, we got to win some football games for that to happen. And I'm not sure that they're going to win very many. It's just there's so little, like Steele said, there's just so little to really look at right now and be like, oh man, that's going to win us some games. We've got a couple of number 2 receivers and a quarterback that's not the greatest. We've got a running game that should be pretty good, but if you don't have a passing game that can take advantage of it, how many games are you going to win by that alone? And is Swift going to even be able to hold up? That's going to be the biggest question, because Swift couldn't in college and he didn't last year, and that's always been the question with the Lions run game is they get a guy that's talented and then they don't hold up. So that it's just too much of a big question for me. On defense, honestly, I think the defense might be it. We don't have a ton of talent on the defense, but we have just enough there that good coaching, and I think we got a good coach, can get some wins based on that defense. Our pass rush is probably not going to be there at all. So we're talking about the back 7 that are going to be doing a lot of the heavy lifting here. But I think with our schedule, there's a couple of guys that we face on that schedule that I think this defense could pull out. A little bit less so on the other side of the ball.
All right. Steve-O has thoughts on James Wiggins and Derek Forrest from Cincinnati, 2 of the better athletes that have production, but they aren't getting a lot of hype. What do you think, Matt Bomb?
Yeah, and they both did test really well. Cincinnati has a very underrated strength and conditioning program. They've been producing some pretty good athletes for years now, but the program itself just doesn't get a lot of hype. I think that changes next year. They've got a really good quarterback that's going to be in first-round consideration. Cincinnati's going to be a lot more nationally known and talked about next year than they were this year. Both of those guys are pretty underrated as players. I don't think they're rated anywhere near where they should go in the draft this year, and I think they're going to go a lot higher than a lot of people are projecting. For the Lions' purposes, rangy guys that can cover a lot of ground, yeah, we can work with that. We can do something with that. The only thing I think about the day 3 type of safeties is that the Lions do still have Will Harris. And as bad as Will Harris was at times last year, he wasn't drafted to be a day 1 starter. He was drafted to be a developmental safety who should have had time to sit behind Duron Harmon, guys like that. But he just got played too much, and he was just thrown to the wolves and didn't do good at anything. So it depends on how much the Lions look at Will Harris and think they can develop him back into something based on the type of guy they look at in day 3.
How much
if they get a guy like those two.
How much hope do you have for the Will Harris project?
Man, it's hard to judge any of these guys because of how badly they were coached and the types of situations they were thrown into. With no pass rush, defensive backs are going to struggle. You're putting guys in the worst possible position you can put them in. And Harris was thrown to the wolves. He was just thrown out there and expected to do way more than he was ready for. They eased in Tracy Walker the year before, and I don't know why they did such a different tact with Will Harris, where they were like, "Yeah, go figure this shit out." They didn't do that as much with Tracy Walker, and I don't know why, but you can clearly see the difference in how those guys developed as football players. One guy developed pretty incrementally and got quite a bit better, and then struggled a bit when the play calling and pass rush wasn't there. And one guy was just all over the place. I wouldn't say I'm confident. I think it's worth trying to reclaim Will Harris as a player. I think the talent is there. There's stuff to work with. He's not a lost cause.
Okay. You are one of few people that think that. As we go over the fan base, I'm sorry, but it's all right, guys. We've been an hour and 1 minute. We usually only go an hour. We want to thank Math Bomb for being here with us. He's under the weather. I really appreciate your knowledge and your insight of the game for us. We're going to go to final thoughts, and I'm going to start with Rachel Marie Sports. Thank you for joining us too, Rachel. But I'm going to go to you.
Yeah, well, it was fun to get to talk to Math Bomb a bit today because, like I said a little bit earlier, usually I'm actually reading about all these later round draft prospects through him because, to be completely honest with you, I do get very, very burnt out on draft talk, especially the closer that we get. And I totally stopped doing my research, and I just, the armchair GMs are all over the place, and I really try to stay away from it as much as possible. But I do like the stuff that Math Bomb's putting out there. It's where I'm getting my information. So if you guys aren't following him on Twitter, definitely make sure you do. And of course, all the other guys on the panel here, they're on there as well. They're probably retweeting and sharing things from him. So as always, it's good to talk to you guys. I learned a lot today. More information than I provided you, I learned. So I'm thankful for that.
That's okay. All right. Hey, Math Bomb, make sure you shout yourself out too, and how people can reach you and see your stuff and things like that as well. But your final thoughts for today.
Yeah, I'm glad you guys brought me on. It was a blast. I always love coming on and just chatting Lions football, chatting about the draft. Like Rachel said, there's so much burnout from watching these guys, and you can only have people say, "Go watch this probably undrafted guy that I think should go in the second round." He's not going in the second round. It's not. You can only take so much of that before it starts to really wear on you. So having these moments where you can just stop and talk and get different ideas about the type of players the Lions should be looking into, it's invaluable. Remember that people aren't going to agree with how you want your team to be built, and that's totally fine. That's totally acceptable. If we all agreed, it would be very boring to talk about football, man. It would be not exciting at all. Yeah. But you can find me on Twitter at MathBomb. You can also check out my website, which is relativeathleticscores.com, or I've bought raz.football now, so it's even easier, just ras.football. You can also check out the Pro Football Network mock draft simulator, which I curate, which is profootballnetwork.com/mock draft. Go over there and be your own GM and pick whatever picks you want and figure out what you want with them. And yeah, I'm hoping to have a lot more stuff in the next year than I had even this year. So I'm very excited for what's coming.
We would love to have you back on at some point. If you want to join the Friday free for all, that would be amazing for us. We really appreciate you being here. My final thoughts, I just shout out the chat, man. You guys bring such good questions,
Oh, yeah.
and I give much love to my educated fans out there. So I'm gonna end this show with my man Kurt.
All right, my final thoughts for the day is thank you for all the guests. I know my man Dion was having some technical issues, so shout out to Dorsey Dion for
Shout out
being
to
on the
Dorsey
show.
Dion too.
Matt Baum, it's great to have you on. Your scores are one of some of the things that I look for when I'm looking at draftable players and, kind of what I'm kind of looking at. So thank you for, really creating that and, really giving the average fan something to kind of really judge players on, we look at, potential draft picks. So thank you for being on the show. And the lovely Rachel Marie Sports, it's always a pleasure to spend some time on here with you. You have some great takes as always. What up, Dern? Shout out to the Dern in the chat.
Oh, what up, Dern?
I've always said it's April, it's Autism Awareness Month. So I'm always shouting out my son, Curtis Williams to the third for Autism Acceptance Month. So, that's always what I'm going to do during the month of April, different shirts, to bring awareness to a disease that affects really 1 in 5 children that's born within the U.S. So it's Friday, then it's Saturday, Sunday. It's the weekend, people. Have some fun. Spend time with your loved ones. Hey, treat each other with kindness. Love one another. Treat people like you want to be treated, and it will come back to you. So have fun this weekend. We are less than a week away from the draft. So all this pre-draft stuff will be over with very, very soon.
Thank God.
We can start evaluating who we have on the team. So as you go about your weekend, you know what you got to do, baby. You got to boss up, ball out, and be the best version of you that you can be. For the panel, hey, I got Jim, Rachel Marie, and the notorious Mad Bomb. This is Kurt Steele, and we will holler at you real soon.